It is 11 o'clock on this Thursday. We're live in studio. We will not be here tomorrow celebrating the 4th of July. We will be back in studio on Monday. Just think, when we get back on Monday, we will be 2 weeks away from SEC Football Media Days in Tampa, Florida. That is the unofficial beginning of the 2026 college football season. So let's talk some football this hour. We're going to get it right into it. Let's go to Tuscaloosa. Rodney Orr, TiderInsider, joins us on the Higginbotham hotline. Rodney, I hope you're well. Let's start with Osani Gayles. That is a name that you mentioned to us for the last couple of weeks, and it came to fruition. Tell us more about Gayles and what that means for Alabama.
Well, yeah, he's one of the top wide receivers in the country, obviously in this class, 5'11", 185. These strong comparisons to, some outstanding players. I mean, I've seen some references to Jalen Waddle and some others. But yeah, I think, obviously Alabama wanted to get an elite wide receiver in this class if they could, and to be able to get an Osani Gayles is a big pickup. And I think, there's a good chance they may get another receiver, Kyron Caldwell. We'll see. I think he announces on the 4th. So, that would probably be their two receivers that they get in this class.
Rodney Orr, TiderInsider, joining us on Three Man Front, joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. You had the Walden kid yesterday that committed to Oregon, I believe, is where he ended up committed. Conrad kind of telegraphed that. Was that an expectation, or can you kind of describe how that recruitment went?
Yeah. You talking about Hayden Stepp?
Or Hayden Stepp as well, yep.
Yeah. Hayden Stepp, he's a top-notch corner out of Las Vegas. And Alabama really was in a good position with him for a while. I mean, they made a visit here early on, and things went really, really well. That was at the first part of the summer. But, I think with Oregon, he has a teammate there now that really influenced him, Jet Washington, and who was from the same high school out at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. And I think also, obviously Oregon does really well with NIL, so that perhaps played a role in that final decision. But yeah, I mean, again, I think Alabama with landing Darius White out of Georgia, out of Fairburn, Georgia, as a standout corner, 6'3", about 175, kind of fits the mold that Alabama's looking for. He committed recently. So, Stepp would have been a great pickup, obviously, but Alabama does really well at corner, and I think the pickup of Darius White was big for them.
So you were on the program last Thursday. The next morning on Gary Harris' show on Tide 100.9, big announcement as Jeremiah Beverly from Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, he committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. What does Beverly bring to the table? What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Jamie Mitchell, the head coach there at Hillcrest, was a really successful high school coach in Mississippi back in the day, and he's coached some championship teams and a lot of really good players over there. And when he speaks, you listen, and he's really high on Jeremiah Beverly. Thinks he's one of the hardest workers he's ever had. Great work ethic. Comparisons a little bit to Anthony Jennings from the standpoint of he's probably not the tallest guy, 6'2", as an edge player, but he can really pressure the quarterback. He's really aggressive. Anthony was a great high school pass rusher, became a really good one here now in the NFL. And I think Jeremiah Beverly has some of those qualities that you saw in Jennings. Just the work ethic. He's a lifelong Alabama fan. Now some other schools have kind of started to jump in on him, and I'm talking about like Florida and some others. But I think he's local. He's a lifelong Alabama fan, and he's the type of guy that I think sticks with your program.
Rodney, when we look at recruiting, and we know that players are getting crazy amounts of money to go on these recruiting visits in the transfer portal window. I was curious, what at the high school level have you been able to understand about some of these visits? And are they all paid for visits where these guys are not only getting their travel and their stay, but also just their time compensated?
Yeah, you talking about like the official visits?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Now, look, that's a good question there. There's a lot of talk about, and there has been talk even before NIL about, paying for visits. Obviously on official visits, that everything is paid for. On these unofficial visits, it's supposed to be on the dime of the the prospect. The universities, the programs themselves certainly aren't supposed to be able to do that now. My guess is a lot of these unofficial visits now are paid for under the table. Is what I would expect. Things you hear, because these kids take a lot of visits. Think about traveling across the country multiple times for unofficial visits. That's a lot of money, a lot of expense, and but as far as paying them on their official visits, it wouldn't surprise me if certainly that was something that's going on too, is to pay these kids to make a visit to your school on an official visit.
One of the cool things about your website, TiderInsider.com, for those that love history and going back in time, you've got an interesting piece up. And it's apropos now because so many Alabama fans like Conrad, they're kind of freaking out, only probably going to have 13, 14, 15 maybe signees in this recruiting class. But you took everybody back to 1995's recruiting class. Kind of talk about this, because I know Alabama had looming sanctions. Back then, almost everybody in the SEC was under NCAA investigation. Bama was anticipating that they were going to get hit. They were going to lose some scholarships due to the NCAA investigation. But this Alabama class that they put together might go down as one of the best, I guess the biggest for the punch and the number of guys that they signed.
They were going into that year. They were limited on numbers. Of course, the overall numbers were pretty tight. They only had 18 to give, as I recall. And they were giving up 14 because they were going to self-impose 4 scholarships for, the things that they were facing with the NCAA. They were going to go ahead and self-impose those 4 scholarships, hoping that would suffice for the penalty, which obviously it did not. They got hammered pretty hard, actually. But the 14 that they signed, what an outstanding group that they had. Included Sean Alexander.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Yeah.
Fernando Bryant. There's 3 first-round draft picks. And they had a lot of other players in that class that made great contributions.
Reggie Grimes, I think, was one of those, wasn't he?
Reggie Grimes was a great player out of Nashville who actually came in. He was a high school running back and ended up, obviously outstanding defensive lineman here at Alabama. So overall, it was a really good class. Almost all of those guys contributed. There were a couple that didn't contribute maybe as significantly as was expected, but for a 14-man class at that time, they led Alabama back from that devastating NCAA sanctions that they had that were levied in August of '95 in the Jelks-Langham situation. They led them to 4 years later, 99, who would have guessed that Alabama in that year, go back to 95, that devastating moment in August of 95 when they announced those sanctions, who would have thought, 4 years later, 99, that Alabama would not only beat Spurrier one time, but beat him twice in the SEC championship. And it was that group that keyed, that run that they had in the 99 SEC championship.
Yeah, it was just incredible for that team in 99 to go to the Swamp and beat Spurrier, and then turn around and do it again in the SEC championship game with Freddie Millins in that group. That was crazy.
Yep. Yeah, and Pat, now listen, as you know, the first time they played Spurrier that year in Gainesville, I think Florida had like a 31-game home winning streak that Alabama snapped or something like that.
Sure did.
But there was talk leading into that game that as soon as that game was over, with the expectation Florida was going to win and probably win big, that Dubose would be fired in the middle of the season. And then they won that game, and they went on to win the SEC championship.
I know. Just trust me. We were on red alert, just like you were on TiderInsider.com for that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was crazy, man, the way the season turned around, with that one game.
And everyone forgets Charlie Stubbs, the offensive coordinator.
That's right.
Yep.
Charlie Stubbs. Yep.
Stubbs was an interesting guy too, have an opportunity to talk to him, and he brought a more of a wide open offense here, and of course that was something that went against the grain with the way Alabama likes to run the football.
Yeah, he was a Utah guy, wasn't he? Wasn't he a BYU fella? He
played for Lavelle Edwards.
Yeah,
he played for Lavelle Edwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, and you do too, Rodney. Back then, you could go to Tuscaloosa, and I remember going into Charlie Stubbs' office. I mean, you basically, wave your hand at the front secretary, and you literally
walk on by.
Yeah, you walked on down the hallway, and there's Charlie Stubbs, in his office, and you're sitting down, and you can just talk ball with him. I mean, that's the way it was with both Alabama and Auburn. It just wasn't just Alabama. It was a different time back then. But you could find out a lot about the personnel and about what these coaches were really thinking.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, there was a lot of things that was going on back then that you could find out about too. But yeah, Charlie Stubbs, and the interesting thing, Pat Landrum, his first game, of course, now like I said, he played for Lavelle Edwards at BYU, and his first game here at Alabama was against who? BYU.
Yep.
Remember that?
And
wait a minute. I was at that game.
That was when Bryant Denny went. That was another. They had redone Bryant Denny or expanded it.
Was it hotter than fire that game?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had the new big screen up.
Yes.
I think that was the.
Yep.
Unveiling of that.
Hey, Rodney, while we have you, just a 30,000-foot view, and you hear and you see a lot of things from around the Southeastern Conference, just recruiting-wise, who is kind of, opened your eyes, or who is one of those programs that you hear is spending a ton of money right now?
Oh, probably Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Well, that's shocking.
Texas. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, A&M's getting a lot of guys, man. So is Texas, obviously. So they're out there slinging it around. Now, listen, here's the thing, and again, I know you guys realize this, but A&M's been spending money for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've put together some very, very hefty rosters in terms of money. They did it a few years ago under Jimbo Fisher when they had, quote unquote, the greatest recruiting class of all time. And if just within a couple of years, that whole thing had blown up.
Yeah.
Those guys that signed with them then were everywhere else, And so they've been investing money in a long time trying to win championships. And, Texas is doing it, obviously, too. And I know LSU with Lane has really invested heavily in the portal. So, there's some SEC schools that are among I think, the top NIL programs right now.
Are we still lining these deals like it was reported out of Texas A&M with Corvettes and Ferraris and Lamborghinis? Or is it, hey, here's your straight-up cash deal, go buy the car you want?
Listen, they've been handing out Z28s and everything.
Z28s, love that.
He went Pony Express days.
He sure did, Z28.
They've been doing that. I think they gave Eric Dickerson one, and he committed to SMU. So, listen, I do know this. I do know that there's players out there at A&M and Texas. If they do a little 20-minute podcast interview, they're getting paid $25,000-$50,000.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you imagine? A little pop, just a little interview.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yep.
25 to 50 grand a pop.
Yeah. And that way they can write it down, and this is what he was paid for.
I remember and I'm not going to name the player. I probably could. I mean, it really doesn't matter now, but he did not sign with Alabama. But I do know that another Southeastern Conference school, his grandmother needed a new roof.
Mm-hmm.
And that other SEC school decided to not only put a new roof, but give the grandma a new car.
Well, I was going to say, that new roof's going to look silly on that old house. Here's a new house.
And Rodney, I'll text you the name, but it was a very good tight end in the Southeastern Conference.
Interesting.
And that Alabama was heavily involved in the recruiting.
So you guys want me to give you a good recruiting story?
I got a guess. If I take a guess, will you tell me who it is?
Yeah.
Rufus French.
Rufus French. That's a good guess.
My headphone is acting up, Conrad. Can you see if you can fix my headphone? Can you see? I did not hear what Landrum said. Mm-hmm. I'm having a problem. Can you fix that for me?
Do you remember who his quarterback was? Romero Miller.
Yep.
Rufus French.
I'm still having problems with my headset, Conrad. Can you
Landrum's
please
just diving into the deep end.
Can you please help me out here? I cannot hear anything that Landrum is saying right now.
Rodney, so you agree? I think we're on to something here.
You might be. Yeah. That was a good guess. I forgot about old Rufus. I forgot about the good Mississippi kid.
And now I'm having problems hearing Rodney. What is going on here?
Hey. Now speaking of Mississippi, I'll tell you guys. I know you got go here, but
no, you're good, man. We're here till 2.
Yeah, we're here till 2.
Yeah,
we'll take some breaks. You can get a little lunch, but
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, tell the story.
I'm sitting in the dentist chair. This is back 04, 05, somewhere in there. Sitting in the dentist chair, my cell phone goes off, and the guy's working. The dentist is working. I look up and I said, this is coming from the offices there at Alabama. And he said, this guy's a big Alabama fan, this dentist. He says, well, take the call, man. I want to know if you got some scoop. So I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, man. He pulls those tubes out of my mouth, whatever. And I answered the phone. Of course, it was someone inside the recruiting office. And he said, hey, I just want to make you aware. We just got a commitment from a great running back, man, our number one guy, LaVar Giles, out of Mississippi. And he said, you might want to give him a call to, get the story. So I said, hey, I appreciate it, whatever. I'm sitting in the dentist chair. The dentist says, hey, call him. Call him now. I want to hear what the kid said. So I call him up, and the grandmother answers.
Oh, boy.
And I said, yes, ma'am. I said, I hear LaVar's committed to Alabama. And she said, yes, sir, he did. But that might be about to change. And I said, now, wait a minute. I understand he just committed within 30 minutes or so. She said, yeah, but the Ole Miss millionaires are here, and they have him out in the front yard right now, so that could change. That's true. That is a true story.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Those are some great stories. That is Rodney Orr.
Come outside so we can talk.
Yeah, we'll handle this. That is Rodney Orr from TiderInsider, TiderInsider.com. Now's the time for you to sign up and get a membership for that outstanding website. Rodney, always a pleasure. Hope you have a happy and safe 4th of July. Try to stay cool. I know it's always hotter down the road in Tuscaloosa than it is in Birmingham, but always appreciate your time.
Thanks, Rodney.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Y'all take care. Have a great one.
You too. Thank you so much. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Some of the takeaways, what Rodney Orr just told us. Also, your reaction on the Jocks text line. We'll get to that and more. Three-man front continues. Landrum, Pat, Conrad on a Thursday.